Jason, ready to go. Welcome into this live edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Schultz here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we'll go over the latest news and rumors on your Seattle Seahawks as we'll talk about the possibility of making a move for Kirk Cousins. Yes, you heard that right. We will examine the latest rumors that you need to hear about coming up in just a little while from right now. Plus, we will take a look at what Richard Sherman had to say on the Seattle Seahawks as he chimed in on everything that's gone on with this team and that loss to Green Bay, from the quarterback position to the offensive line to even the fan base as well, with the fan response that occurred with the Packers fans kind of taking over Lumen Field a bit. He had some interesting thoughts that we'll get to coming up in just a bit on that. And then later in the show, we will do a Q&A Rumors Mailbag. We'll also preview Sunday's matchup between the Seahawks and Vikings as well. So a loaded show ahead here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. Glad to have you with us. Thanks for making us a part of your Wednesday. You guys shout out your city. Let us know where you're watching from, and we'll shout you out as we get the show off and rolling. We're coming at you from the Chat Sports Studios here in downtown Dallas, Texas. It is my Friday. I am off Thursday, Friday this week, just due to the NFL schedule and of sorts. So, folks, I'm going to get down on this Wednesday as if it's a Friday afternoon. It's our happy hour always on these Wednesdays, so we want to make sure that we have a good time today, and appreciate you guys being here. Let us know where you're at, and we'll show you some love. I see Boog is checking in from Temple, Texas. Not terribly far from us. Good to see you, Boog. Where else you guys at? I got Dustin in Prosser, Washington. Got Steve J in Seattle. Where else? Where are you guys at? I got Sylvia in Tacoma, Washington. I got 12s Forever in Spokane, the hometown of the great Sydney Sweeney. Where else are you guys watching from? Let us know in the chat, and we'll shout you guys out. The million-dollar question on the minds of 12s everywhere: will the Seahawks make the postseason? It certainly got a lot tougher after Sunday night's loss to the Green Bay Packers, but still tied for first place, still control your own destiny. Are the Hawks going to make it happen? What do you think? Y for yes, in for no. Way in the chat and let us know. I see Nicholas saying he's checking in from Washington. Pedro in Los Angeles. D. Weller is in Warden, Washington. Pedro says they're not going to make the playoffs. John is in Bremerton, Washington as well. Smitty is here with me. We'll bring him in when he's ready, coming up in just a moment. But want to hear from you guys. Will Seattle make the postseason? Weigh in and let us know. There he is. Smitty joins us right now. Smitty,
what's up,
welcome back. Been a few weeks.
It has been a little while.
You've been busy doing other things.
Yeah, wear a lot of hats, a lot of moving parts.
Grew a bit of a beard since we last saw you.
It's a little thicker than we've last seen. I've kind of let myself go a little bit, and I might have to get the clippers back on the chin here soon.
I think you need to go full on red beard here. You got that ginger beard going, you know.
I was in denial for a long time about that. My mother would always say you had a ginger beard and ginger facial hair, all that stuff. I don't want to be a ginger. Who wants to be? But
you're a blonde on top.
Blonde on top. Carpets don't match the drapes. You know what I'm saying.
That's funny.
But it's curtains. But yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, I got two different facial colors on my head, and
so you are a ginger.
I am in this region. Yeah, I am, and I've come to embrace it.
So ginger Smitty. Seahawks playoffs, yes or no?
It is as tight as it could possibly be right now. The Hawks are probably exactly where I thought they were going to be at this point in the season, heading in, right? 8-6, hovering around that wild card spot, hovering around the division. It's all tight in the NFC West, which is a little bit underwhelming this season. But if I had to make a you-know-what to my head prediction right now, I'm going to say the Seahawks do make the playoffs. Yes, typing my Ys.
Okay. Pedro saying no. Sylvia saying yes. 12 saying yes. Me saying yes. Steve J saying yes.
It's really all going to come down to Week 18.
It is. So here's what has to happen. All right, folks. Based on the odds, and we went over this in a video on Monday of the playoff picture, basically you need to, at the very least, win 2 out of your next 3. And one of the 2 has to be against the LA Rams. So you look at this week, Minnesota, toss-up game. The Chicago game you should win, but it's a short week, and you just never know. A Chicago team that still is playing with the chip on their shoulder. Those guys are fighting for their jobs and something to prove and all that. And then, of course, that game against LA. LA is red hot right now, and you're going on the road for that. It is nothing's a given these next 3 weeks. There's not one game I point to, even the Chicago game, Smitty, and I say for certain, yeah, Seattle's going to win these without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, that Chicago game screams trap right before the last week of the season where you're playing for your playoff lives, theoretically, right? I mean, winning this week would be huge. I kind of call this a trap on the other end for Minnesota, right? They just got a big win. Obviously, this past
Sam Darnold didn't play well the other night, by the way.
Sam Darnold didn't play that well, so maybe he's trending a little bit downward, and Seattle can get to him this week, and maybe that's a little bit of a reverse trap for the Minnesota Vikings. But next week against the Bears, they have to be on their A game. Can't afford to let any gimmies fall to the ground before they have to, be that in that do or die game against the Rams.
And I know that this is Seattle's last home game of the regular season. Potentially could get a home playoff game. But they have been better on the road than they have been at home this season.
Insane.
And we'll talk about the crowd situation later, but you haven't had much of a home field advantage like we typically expect at home anyway. So I look at these next 3 weeks. It is going to be wild. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we're on the better end of things. But Geno did practice today. He is back. So that's very good news. We'll see how things hold up the rest of the week, but a long ways to go on that front. Before we go any further in today's program, let's tell you about our sponsor. That is Game Time. Game Time is the place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Whether you're looking for tickets to sporting events, concerts, theater productions, comedy shows, and more, Game Time's got you covered. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals and great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have their super deals. If you see a super deal, you don't want to pass up on that. They have their seat views, and you get the visual, see what that seat is like. You can customize your spot as well. You choose the event you want to go to, choose your seat, and then you're checking out on Game Time with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. We haven't got the Super Chat menu yet, but we already have a Super Chat. First one of the day comes from Taker610 wants to know, if we lose to Minnesota, we're 3-6 at home. Worse since, good question. All right, Jamie.
I'll try to find that for you.
Okay, Jamie, go find that.
Let's go. Producer Jamie's going to get it
done. Jamie's going to go find that for us. I don't know, but it's been a long time. It's so bizarre that Seattle has the third best record in the NFC on the road of any team in the National Football Conference, but yet they've struggled at home. And I don't think it's any coincidence that their home record is not great when the atmosphere has not been that great this season. When we see the Bills fans take over, when we see the Packers fans take over, that makes a difference. When you don't have that home field advantage, it's in the name, right? You lose that advantage you have of playing at home.
Correct.
Some scorching hot takes right there. But, yes, I don't find it a coincidence that you have that losing record when we just haven't seen that atmosphere be the same thing. And Smitty, I'll dive into this more later, but it's kind of sad that here we are. We have a Seahawks team that's winning, that's got a chance to get a division title here, new head coach, and there's just that lack of excitement. I expected more out of the 12s at Lumen Field and the atmospheres that we've seen this year. It's so unusual. We talk about this happening in LA with like the Rams or the Chargers or in places like Nashville with the Titans. I never expected that we would be talking about that with Lumen Field in Seattle, considering just not too long ago this was the loudest stadium in the NFL.
And especially against a team like the Packers, right, who have a storied history against, especially in the last decade or so. I feel like that was one at prime time. Like I feel like that was one that the 12s would have gotten up for. But man, I don't know. Are people getting priced out of tickets? Like I don't really know what the solution is there. But the Magic has to return to Lumen Field. Maybe he was changing the name. Maybe we got to go back to the Link.
Back to the Link, CenturyLink, which is now the company Lumen.
Really? Is that what happened?
That's what happened.
Oh, okay.
CenturyLink does not exist anymore.
Gotcha. So, to answer your question, Taker, worst since, now, to be fair, the Seahawks are tied with their 2021 home record, 3-5 in that season. But 3-6 would obviously be worse. Yes. So, it would be the worst since 2008, where the Seattle Seahawks went 2-6 at home.
2008. That's a long time ago.
Yep, and that's like in between their Super Bowl appearance in 2005 and beast mode coming around in like 2010. So it was really that dark period for Seattle there in the late 2000s. But even then, around those years, they were 4-4 the following year. 2 years after that, they're 5-3. The season before, in 2007, when I believe that was Sean Alexander's MVP season, 7-1 at home. So like that was an anomaly there. Over the last couple of seasons, though, since 2019, the Seahawks are 23-20 at home.
Well, and you kind of alluded to this, but I was thinking about it, Smitty. Most notably, people think about the Bills game and the Packers game of those fans just taking over the stadium.
Yeah.
Those are small market teams, too.
Oh, yeah, the two smallest.
Imagine, like,
some of the most passionate.
Let's go to next season. I can't recall off the top of my head who the home and away matchups are. I know it's out there somewhere. But let's just take example the Dallas Cowboys. If you play the Cowboys at home next year, based on what we're seeing now, isn't there a pretty good chance that would be a home game for the Cowboys almost?
Yep.
That's a sad reality.
Yep.
So hopefully things turn around and people wake up and start stop selling their tickets and start showing up to games and everything. But it's a very real thing that could happen. Super Chat menu. Taker, thanks for that. First time Super Chatters get the Seahawks chant. $5. You can find out if you are naughty or nice this holiday season as we'll spin the wheel and see where you end up as we'll pass that list along to Santa Claus as we're just, about a week from Christmas already.
A week from today.
So as you could probably guess, there will not be a live show next week because it is the Christmas holiday. Smitty will be off. I'll be working, but I have some other things to attend to. $10, take some shots, $20, do a beer bong, $50, get sauce with the Seahawks sauce. And feel free to send us a super chat, $sign next to the chat box to contribute. If we reach 300, then we will do a boot here on the show. So that is what we're offering today, and let's make it happen. Let's last live show before Christmas. Let's make this a Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good Christmas week here on the channel. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays or happy Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or Boxing Day, whatever you may be celebrating. All right, Smitty's favorite part of the show.
Let's go.
It is time to start spamming S in the chat. We already got 100 people here. Not a bad start, but I would love to have more people join us on today's show.
This is how we do it.
Let's wake up the algorithm a bit. Let's start spamming S. Let's see who's going to be the early favorite to be MVP at today's show. Smitty's going to shout them out. Let's see how many we can get over this next minute. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
And who else but Ty Man the Buckeye rolling in with the S's first. What's up, Ty Man? Good to see you. Dalton Linden, how are you, my friend? Good to see you as well. Steve J is getting those S's in the building. The Silva getting an S in the building. How is everybody doing on this fine Wednesday on Seahawks Live? 12's forever. How you doing, my friend? The Silva, Dalton, Ty Man. Let's go. We need new names. in here. The real ones are rolling out. The real ones are showing out like they do every week. But we need some new names, like Sage421. Who else we got? Steve J, Silva, Dalton, Ty Man. Seeing the same ones. Let's go. Santino Dwyer. I think that's how you say it. Nick Smith, how are you? Both of you guys are participating, and we love to see that. Keep spamming S. About 30 seconds left on the clock. M.E. How we doing, M.E.? Is that me or are those initials? Good to know. Keep spamming those S's. Here we go.
About 10
Steve
seconds.
J. NSG Boog. Dalton, Trell the photographer, Santino, Kurt Miller, Chieferton, what's going on? Now we got some new names going on. Last couple seconds, here we go. Mauricio, Dalton, me, Chieferton, Boog, Juan Martinez, Kurt Miller, Jenna Sandy. Good to see everybody. White Lightning in the building as well. Thank you all for waking up the chat a little bit. And
nice.
Do we have more people in the building? Oh, look at that. More people have joined us on today's show.
Up to 110 now. You guys did it. Appreciate you. We're at 31 likes right now. Let's get to 50, and then we'll start today's show. I'll open up my first cold can Happy Dad. I got a wild cherry, and it is gluten-free. I love
electrolytes as well.
Yes, electrolytes as well.
Hydration.
So I will get hydrated, and I won't have to take in gluten. Although I love gluten personally. I don't know how you gluten-free people do it, honestly. Give me that bread. Give me all the bread. 33, when we get to 50, then we will start the show. White Lightning, we'll get to your super chat here in a moment, I promise. Steve J saying drink. Hey, we got to get to 50 likes. So let us know when you like the video as well, and we'll shout you out.
Yeah, type me in the chat when you like the video.
Yeah. Chefferton liked it. I can always count on you, Chefferton. Appreciate that. What's this talk I'm seeing about people bringing up Jaron Hall?
I don't know. Is he in the Seahawks practice squad?
Yeah, he got elevated to the active roster for one game this year. Don't get your hopes up. Don't get too excited about Jaron Hall. Let's shut that down right now before it goes any further. Shepperton liked it. Ty Man liked it. Appreciate you, Ty Man. Who else liked the video?
8 likes away. Let's go.
8 more away. I'll crack open the beer. We'll get started with the show. Silva liked it. Thank you. Got Jeremiah, the bullfrog, liking the video. 7 more. 7 more. Anthony checking in from the Bahamas. That sounds nice right now.
That does sound nice.
Let's see. We got Jeremiah. Sage says you need to bust out a lucky jersey again this week. Who knows? Maybe we'll see. Who else? We're almost there. Who's going to help us out? Now, did we get clarification? Is it M-E or is it me?
That's a good question.
Which one is it?
M-E. Let us know.
Russell, Kurt, 4 more. 4 more, then we'll go. Then we'll get started here. Who is going to be the 4 to put us over the top? 3 away. Let us know in the chat when you like it. White Lightning, I mistyped, so don't judge, but I'm not a Vikings fan, so it's still valid. Okay, no judgment here. Like Planet Fitness, the judgment-free zone. 3 more away. I have not been to a Planet Fitness in years. I hate it at the Planet Fitness how, like, if you grunt, they kick you out of the place.
The lunk alarm.
That's right. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Aren't you supposed to, like, if you're really feeling it, like, you know, let them hear it a bit?
Yeah.
Does that mean you're working really hard? Like, goodness. There we go, 50 likes. Glenn liked it. Dalton, Boog, among others here. All right. White Lightning says, how hard would it be to beat the Vikings in reality? So there's something I'm going to bring up in our keys to victory that I think is a very interesting point, Smitty. The Vikings have a similar problem to the Seattle Seahawks, and that is their offensive line.
Yeah.
They have given up almost, not quite, but almost as many sacks as Seattle has. So I think with that in mind, it's a pretty even matchup between these two, and all things considered that they both have the same issue here.
I agree. I mean, it's just going to come down to who can make more throws under pressure, which O-line can get a better push up front in the run game. That's going to be a big factor as well. Both units aren't the best in pass pro, so you know the quarterback's going to have to make some plays, and I don't even know who's going to be playing quarterback for Seattle.
Yeah, more on that coming up later. All right, before we get started here, here's what's coming up on today's show. News and rumors. Richard Sherman weighs in on the Seahawks. Also, we'll preview Sunday's matchup against the Vikings, and we'll do a Q&A rumors mailbag as well. Use hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get on the mailbag portion of the show. Start getting your questions in now, and we would appreciate it. More questions, the better, and we'll go from there. All right, without further ado, segment number 1, our news and rumors here on this live edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. That's where we'll get started. So we'll be discussing the possibility of bringing in Kirk Cousins. Yes, you heard that right. We'll examine that more coming up starting right now here on Seahawks Today. Here we go. You're watching Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Schultz here with you. Thanks for joining us. Could this guy, Kirk Cousins, be on his way to Seattle next season? We have some interesting new developments to get to that we will explain coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do that, though, folks, Cousins' former team, the Minnesota Vikings, they're facing off against your Seattle Seahawks this week. And we have a sub-battle going on between our old friend Patrick Seatman, the Ginger, and Seahawks Today. We want to see who's going to not just win on the football field, but off the football field as well, and who can pick up the most subscribers on their respective channels this week. Vikings now with a slight edge, 98-91, but we can catch up to them here a bit. We want to make sure we set the tone early for the rest of the week. If the Hawks do their part, we'll do ours. Or I guess it's the other way around. You get the right idea. Subscribe now for free for the latest happenings on your favorite team each and every day, all season, all year long, right here on Seahawks Today, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. So, according to some new odds that are out, courtesy of betonline.ag, the Seahawks are among the top favorites to land Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins this offseason. And if you need a little refresher, Cousins came to Atlanta, got paid a lot of money, signed a no-trade clause, and this season has not gone up to expectations. He has really struggled coming back from that Achilles injury that he suffered a season ago. Even though they're in playoff contention, have a chance to still win their division, he's been benched. A very familiar name to the folks in Seattle, Michael Penix Jr., now takes over as the starting quarterback in Atlanta, and so that pretty much means that barring something crazy happening, Cousins is likely done with the Falcons after this season. So where could he go next? Here's the odds, courtesy of betonline.ag. The Titans are the favorites for Cousins to start week 1 of 2025. But what do you know? Who's next? Seattle at plus 450, the Browns at plus 500, the Saints at plus 600, and the New York Giants at plus 800. I got to say, I was a little surprised by this, but they always say Vegas knows best. Do they know something that's going on behind the scenes that we don't potentially? Let me make this point very clear, though. Under no circumstance whatsoever should the Seattle Seahawks even consider trading for Kirk Cousins from the Atlanta Falcons. Absolutely not. No way. Nada. He looked awful this season. His contract is atrocious to deal with. It's a hell no from me when it comes to trading for Kirk Cousins. But that's the key word, trading. Hear me out on this. Let's work this one thing at a time. Let's start with this from Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. As one source put it, Cousins' arm is currently dead. That's believed to be a result of his inability to use his lower body to muster full power on his throws. It stands to reason that after 14 games of compensating for protecting his surgically repaired Achilles tendon, he's out of gas. So that's not great. However, if he is released, then you may have my interest potentially. Because let's just say, for all intents and purposes, that he does not want to waive his no-trade clause, that he doesn't want to work with Atlanta, and they say, fine, get out of here, here's your money. Well, then, as a free agent, it's a totally different situation compared to if he were traded when it comes to the financials. Here's more from Florio explaining the following. If he refuses to waive his no-trade clause and forces the Falcons to release him, citing him for the league minimum, with the Falcons on the hook for the balance between that and $27.5 million, becomes a steal. Someone would surely give him a chance at that price tag. So at that point, it would be similar to what the Pittsburgh Steelers have with our old friend Russell Wilson right now, where if you're Seattle here, you could be in a circumstance where you get Cousins for next to nothing compared to money that you would have to pay Geno. And Geno, of course, is looking for a new contract anyway. And the truth of the matter is this. If you're Seattle here, whether it's Cousins, whether it's Geno, you're in the same circumstance either way where you would have a bridge quarterback. Geno's not your long-term solution. Neither is Cousins. And you could save a lot of money potentially with Cousins if you were to sign him as a free agent. That idea has my attention. Should the Seahawks bring in Cousins this offseason? It's our pinned comment today. Type Y for yes and for no. Way in the comments section. Let us know what you think. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time is the place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Whether looking for tickets to sporting events to see your Seattle Seahawks in action, maybe it's the Kraken or it's a theater production, comedy show, whatever it may be in Seattle and elsewhere, Game Time's got you covered. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, that experience is much better, and it's the perfect gift. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have their super deals. If you see a super deal, that's going to be one you don't want to pass up on. They have their seat views. You can get the visual, see what that seat is like. You can customize your spot as well. You choose the event you want to go to. Price is listed. Choose your seat to see if you like that seat or not. And then, boom, you're checking out with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Game Time, proud partner of Seattle Seahawks today. All right, more on Kirk Cousins. The former Washington Commander went on to the Minnesota Vikings, and he has been paid a lot of money over his career. And the results, well, he hasn't really had the postseason success. He's got 4 Pro Bowls to his name, led the NFL in completion percentage in 2015, has put up a ton of numbers. You go back to 2021, threw for 33 touchdowns, just 7 picks, 29 touchdowns in 2022. Last year was off to a very good start before he got hurt with that season-ending Achilles injury. But Cousins has struggled in the big games. He hasn't looked great in prime time. He doesn't have the postseason success on that front. Now, whether the Seahawks keep Geno or bring in a guy like Cousins, what hasn't changed for me is the long-term outlook for this quarterback situation for Seattle. Whether you decide to keep Geno or if you go another direction and bring in Cousins, the plan is still in place, I believe, whether it's this year or whether it's next year. You still have to find that quarterback of the future. You can't play this journeyman veteran quarterback game forever and expect long-term success. Eventually, John Schneider, and I know he's been reluctant on drafting young quarterbacks, eventually he's got to find that guy. And so if you go with Smith or if you go with Cousins, that's going to be a 1 or 2 year solution at most, and then you need to go find your long-term guy. And maybe that long-term guy can sit under a Geno or a Cousins potentially and wait for their day to come. But that doesn't change the fact that that needs to happen. And Geno was never supposed to be a long-term solution anyway. I think, in all honesty, we should be thrilled that Seattle's gotten what they've gotten out of Geno Smith. 2 Pro Bowls, back-to-back 9-win seasons, NFL Comeback Player of the Year, led the NFL in completion percentage. I've been very pleased, for the most part, from what we've seen from Geno in this short stretch, but it was never supposed to be a long-term thing. Now, what about Sam Howell? Where does he factor in all this? Because right now, Geno Smith and Sam Howell both are under contract for next season. If you're making me choose, I'm taking Cousins and Smith both over Sam Howell. If Cousins is an option as a free agent at the veteran minimum, as we're suggesting here, then I'm not even considering Sam Howell to get a chance to be the starter next year. Then my decision at that point, if I'm going the veteran route, is do we stick with Geno or do we go with Cousins? Because Sam Howell, I got to tell you, I know it was a small sample size, but my goodness, was that ugly on Sunday night of what we saw. And it was very different from when Geno stepped in for Russell Wilson a few years ago and the lights came on and he was ready to go, led a 98-yard touchdown drive and did pretty good in the games he filled in for Russell Wilson a few years ago. Sam Howell, I think we know what we know out of Sam Howell at this point. He's a gunslinger. He can certainly throw it downfield, but he makes too many mistakes. He walks into too many sacks. He's not accurate enough. Sam Howell, I don't care if it's for Seattle or for any team in the NFL, he is never going to be a franchise quarterback in this league. He is a very good backup, and I would be very fine with keeping Sam Howell around to back up a Geno or a Cousins or something like that. But this is not the solution you're hoping for. If Sam Howell is your day one starter next year, I think we all should be very concerned. Now, let's let you all pick. If you could decide between these three vets to be next year's starting quarterback, who would it be? Would you go with Cousins? Would you go with Geno? Or would you roll with Sam Howell? Type KC for Kirk Cousins. Type GS for Geno Smith. Type SH for Sam Howell. Weigh in. Let us know which quarterback you would roll with next year. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now to Seattle Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. All right. There's one down. 3 to go. First quarter in the books. Up next, we'll tell you what Richard Sherman had to say about the Hawks. Smitty rejoins me. Smitty, so based on what we know of that possibility, let's say for this exercise that Cousins is released and it's a veteran deal, I think you're on the same page as me. I'm not trying to trade for Kirk Cousins.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, his contract's a nightmare.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay him a hell of a lot of money. And for a Seattle team that's going to, over the next couple of seasons, have to start paying some of their young talent, there's just no room for Kirk Cousins to be absorbing that fraction of the cap for Seattle.
So here's our circumstance here. You could go with Cousins on a minimum.
Okay.
Geno on his current contract and probably an extension, or Sam Howell on the last year of his rookie deal. What would GM Smitty do?
Oh, GM Smitty might throw Sam Howell out there and tank. I'm not gonna lie, because I just don't think you're gonna win a Super Bowl with any three of these guys. And at the end of the day, you want to get as close as you can to getting that franchise quarterback in the building. Could Seattle figure out a way to make a deal and trade up for a quarterback? Probably not this year, because the Raiders and the Giants are going to be at the top of this draft board, and they're not trading out. They're not going to walk out of that room on the first night of the draft without a quarterback. And there's only 2 in this draft that are worth taking. So I don't know, man. I think Seattle's in a weird purgatory spot right now where they got to kind of keep trying to win as many games as possible, and that's what NFL teams do. Nobody really tanks in the NFL, but you're staring down a barrel that I don't know if you want to stare down, because I'm not of the camp that wants to give Geno Smith a contract extension.
For me, it's a 1 or 2 year deal max.
Maybe a one with an opt out.
Yeah.
After that, that's really where I would go.
I know some people are talking about 3 years or more. No way.
Out of your mind.
Absolutely not.
Out of your mind.
Jefferson says he'd go with Geno. Noah says Geno. Brandon says he'd go Cousins. Glenn says he'd go Geno. Let us know which one you would roll with for next year. $20 super chat. Connor checking in.
What up, Connor?
Connor with his 3rd super chat ever. Connor, welcome back. That's a beer ball, and we'll take care of here in just a moment. Only hope for the playoffs these next 3 games, especially Vikings and Rams. The defense is consistent. The offense needs to not be the same old we see, but score, limit the sacks, ground game, and no more red zone turnovers. Connor, I think you hit all the points there. I think pretty much about everything. I don't think he's missing anything.
Expert analysis. You said they just don't suck.
Yeah.
That's basically what you're saying. I love it. I hope Seattle follows your blueprint to a T, because they will be looking at the playoffs if they do.
That's a lot they have to do.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. Connor, first beer bowling of the day for you. We'll also spin the naughty or nice wheel for you as well. with that $5 super chat, with the 20 you sent in. So that's a spin. Here you go, Connor. Yeah, just type naughty and nice and just change it to Seahawks colors. Hold on. We're getting the real wheel ready, Connor. I didn't realize it wasn't saved from last week. Stand by, folks. Dan's going to spin the wheel, too. So, because we had multiple 20s, we'll spin it, since it's only 5 to spin. We'll give a spin for me and Smitty, too, to see where we end up. And find out if Smitty or I are nice or naughty. Every $5 super chat, we can find out where you guys end up on the wheel. We'll get to that here in just a moment. Up next, we'll hear from Richard Sherman. Got a game preview coming up and also a Q&A mailbag. Start getting your questions in now using hashtag Seahawks or Super Chatting to get on the mailbag portion of the show. Dan the Man Miller with a $20 Super Chat writes in. Well, unfortunately, I think with the loss to the Packers, we are out of the playoffs race. I really don't think we can go beat the Vikings, which I think is a lot better than the Packers this year. Here's my counterpoint to that, Dan. Seattle was an underdog this past week. We weren't supposed to win against Green Bay. And you're on a 4-game winning streak. I mean, like, I know it's all about feeling, right? 30-13, that was the final, I believe it was. That feels a lot worse than losing 27-24, but it's still the same in the win-loss column, either way. So that's where I would say, stay encouraged because it's just one game at the end of the day. A game you were supposed to lose on paper anyway. So I would not read into too much one game, but they do have their work cut out for them in the next few weeks. Dan, I'll drink some more beer for you. We'll go back to the beer bong, and let's spin the wheel here in just a moment. All right, let's start. We got the wheel ready. Let's start with Connor. Connor, are you naughty or nice? Connor is? Connor's naughty. Sorry, Connor, you're going on the naughty list. Coal is in your stocking. Be on the lookout for that a week from today. Dan the Man Miller, last week was on the nice list. Where is Dan this week? Oh, no, Dan. You're on the naughty list. What did you do between Wednesday to Wednesday?
Dan, what'd you do, bro?
What did you do, Dan? Report back to me. What happened this week for you to go from the nice list to the naughty list?
Crazy.
Not great. How about for let's spin for Smitty here.
Oh, this is for me? All right.
Smitty is.
Oh, get there. All right, we're all just some badass kids, I guess.
Okay, everybody's going on the naughty list. Smitty, you probably got a few reasons why that happened.
Probably more than a few, yeah.
How about me?
This is for Jonesy.
What do I end up?
Oh, you're naughty too, brother.
We're all naughty today. All right. What a start. Everybody's on the naughty list. I swear this thing's not rigged.
No, it's got two sides. It's just
right. Maybe it's all this beer I'm drinking puts me on the naughty list. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Dan says a lot of no's in there. He's a little disappointed. $5 super chat, and you can find out. Okay, so Dan reported back how he ended up on the naughty list. He said, went to the casino and lost $600.
Oh, no.
That sounds like Smitty on any given Wednesday.
I was going to say any given Wednesday, brother. You'd be bounced back.
When you're not sports betting, what's your casino games of choice?
I'm a blackjack player.
Blackjack?
Love blackjack. Yeah, I like making my own decisions. I don't like letting the ball and the wheel decide my fate. I like letting decide on myself.
I'm a roulette guy.
So yeah, I can play roulette. I enjoy it. I just don't really win very often.
I feel like I'm very good at determining when it's going to be red or black, of knowing when to go in.
Yeah.
But I say that the next time I'll lose all my money based on that.
Don't put that juju out in the air.
Yeah, exactly. Jefferton with a $2 super chat. In mobile Cousins with our O-line gets injured ASAP. Maybe so. But Geno's not very mobile either. He's never rushed for more than 200 yards in a single season in his career. So, but you may be right, potentially speaking. Toonsy? Toons 26. That's a first-time super chatter, too.
Oh, yeah?
Is Woolen the next Trey Flowers?
That'd be bad omen if he's Trey Flowers, brother.
You know,
the
internet was cooking Reek after this past week.
Well, he was getting cooked.
Yeah, it wasn't a great night.
Dobbs had his number. Christian Watson has his number.
I think he's played better this year than he did last year.
Last year was really the tackling issues. This year it's more of a coverage thing, I feel like.
Even then, like, his coverage stats are still pretty good. Good.
Interesting. PFF just loves the guy. He's 6'4",
yeah. Yeah. So, Toons, I hope he's not Trey Flowers.
I hope not.
I think there's still more good than bad, but I do think Seattle's going to be drafting a corner pretty high in this next draft.
Trey Flowers was also visibly terrible on the football field. Every play he was either drawing a penalty or he was getting cooked in coverage. So I hope not.
I always have a special feeling for Trey Flowers. My demo tape in college.
Oh yeah.
I did a report on Trey Flowers when he was at Oklahoma State.
Ooh.
And like I tossed to a soundbite of him like talking like after an off-season workout or whatever.
There you go.
So Trey Flowers, he doesn't know it, but we go way back. So for Toons, Smitty, get the chat going.
See!
Hogs!
See!
Hogs!
See!
Hogs! Spam tunes! Play those tunes.
Play that tune.
Tunes, thanks for that super chat. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you. And we're about around $50 right now. So we reach 300, then a boot could potentially happen. So not a bad start to today's show.
Guys, I need you. I am calling upon the 12s right now to get some questions in for our mailbag that's coming up at the end of today's show. Use hashtag Seahawks. Ask anything. Super chats get priority, of course. Only way to guarantee yourself on the mailbag is to super chat your question in. But ask some questions. Use hashtag Seahawks. We need y'all big time today.
Yes.
We don't have any. Let me do a quick check. I don't think we have any in there so far.
Get your questions in.
A whole fat zero.
Okay. Start getting it together. Ty Man, Dan, Connor, Bobby, get some questions in for the mailbag. Dan says, I technically only lost 40, but he was up 600 and didn't stop and lost it all.
That's how it works, my man.
That sucks. That sucks. Which casino did you go to, Dan? Where is your casino of choice? Where can people find you on a Saturday night, Dan? And then we got another super chat from Dan. We'll answer Dan's real quick, and then we'll get to our second segment as we continue here. Dan says, is there a franchise quarterback in the next draft? There are two, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Is he talking about next draft or this draft? I know next draft is the one that's coming up, but not sure if Seattle's really going to be in any position to make a move on those QBs. I wonder if he's talking about 26.
26. I'll be honest. I haven't even started thinking about 26.
Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller.
Oh.
Well, you never know. If Drew Aller was heavily improved this year,
I'm still not a fan. I'm not sold. Arch Manning, 2026.
I've heard he's going to stay in school, according to our Texas insiders.
Yeah. Oh, he's coming this coming up draft.
Okay.
Yeah, that's your end. It's Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
2026 is going to be interesting. Arch, Drew Aller, Nussmeier.
And probably just whatever name pops up in college football next year, there's going to be somebody.
There's going to be some new people. Who else is going to be around? Yeah.
What about John Mateer?
John Mateer, future Oklahoma quarterback.
That's right.
I'm expecting a commitment announcement either today or tomorrow. Our Washington State fans, I want to thank you in advance for the services of John Mateer.
Why is that such a given that he's going there?
Because Oklahoma hired his offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he's going there. That's all. That's all I need to hear.
Unless Miami can come in with a bag at the last minute, he's heading to Norman.
Interesting. Okay, that's who it's down to, though.
Yes. Yeah, he's either going to Oklahoma or is he going to Miami? Folks, what are my Sooners getting out of John Mateer? I like everything except the fact he only scored 14 points against Wyoming in the final game of the season. that wasn't great. But he's got to be better than Jackson Arnold.
Couple of good questions already getting filed in, so I love to see that from you guys. Much appreciated. We'll get to the mailbag later on in today's show, but keep asking questions because we're going to need more.
Yes. Dan the Mid Miller, are you a Cougar or are you a Husky? Who's your college team, Dan? I'm excited to see what the Oregon Ducks do in the playoff. I think they'll win the whole thing. All right, let's hear from Richard Sherman. Let's get to the game preview after that, and then do a mailbag as well. So more to come as we continue here on this live edition of Seahawks Today. We'll get started and begin with Richard Sherman as he sounds off on your Seattle Seahawks. That begins right now. Here we go. Seahawks legend Richard Sherman has sounded off on your Seattle Seahawks, hitting on a number of topics, everything from the quarterback position to the offensive line, and you, the fan base, the 12s. We will let you hear directly from Richard Sherman and react to his recent comments from the Amazon Prime NFL analyst and host of the Richard Sherman podcast on the Volume Network here in just a matter of moments. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Before we go any further in today's show, folks, want to make sure you subscribe to Seattle Seahawks Today. And I want to set a record for more subscribers on today's video than any video for the rest of this month. The most subscribers we've gained on a single video is 103. Not bad. But I believe we can get 150 off today's show. If you want more Seahawks coverage, from our daily news and rumors to live shows every week, watch parties and game days, breaking news, Q&A, mailbags, and more, subscribe now. Let's set a record. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV to subscribe now for free. Richard Sherman, the former Seahawks star corner, the future Hall of Famer, he shared his thoughts on where this Seahawks team is at after the loss to the Green Bay Packers, and he had a lot to say on his podcast. So let's start with what he had to say about the quarterback position. And he was very complimentary of Seattle quarterback Geno Smith. But one point that he made specifically was he believes that if Geno does not come back from this injury that he suffered against the Green Bay Packers, that the season is virtually over, that they cannot get to the promised land of the postseason. They will not be able to win the necessary games they need to if they do not have number 7 under center. Let's start with this from Richard Sherman. Geno Smith, if he doesn't come back, I think that's a wrap for the Seattle Seahawks. To lose him is a critical blow, and people don't appreciate him in Seattle. Quote, we need to replace Geno. We can do so much better than Geno. And that was basically what he was saying, is that this Seahawks fan base does not appreciate Geno, was the point he's making there. And I'll say this. When I look at what's ahead these next 3 weeks, luckily for Seattle, it does seem like, at the time of this recording anyway, that Geno is on track to give it a go this week, and hopefully he stays healthy from there and he plays through the pain and all that. So that's a good sign to start. But as the point that Richard Sherman was bringing up, based on what we saw from Sam Howell and just how unprepared he was for the moment last week and what he's done in his career compared to Geno Smith, it's hard to imagine that things are going to be any better with Sam Howell under center, that Sam Howell can be the difference, that he can push this team over the edge to win these big games over the next few weeks. And credit where credit's due. When you look at the 3 years that Geno Smith has been the starter for this Seahawks team, Geno's won some big games, and he's been very clutch in some crucial moments down the stretch with almost as many fourth quarter and overtime comebacks in the regular season in the last 3 years to Patrick Mahomes, folks. That's how good Geno's been in those moments. And with how close these next few weeks should be, there's a drop-off between Geno Smith and Sam Howell, and I can't imagine Sam Howell making up that gap and that Seattle can get to the playoffs without Geno Smith in that sense. They got to have Geno these next few weeks. Do you agree with Richard Sherman's assessment here? Can the Seahawks win without Geno Smith? It's our pinned comment today. Type Y for yes and for no. Weigh in the comments section. Tell us what you think. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose 2 more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points in football, rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, all sorts of different categories to choose from. Football, a big deal this time of year. You got the college football playoffs about to start. You also have just a few weeks remaining in the pro football regular season. And you can right now, folks, win up to 1,000 times your money. And with Prize Picks, if you put $5 down, you can get $50 to spend for free. You don't have to win to get the money. I'm looking ahead to the college playoffs beginning this weekend. I'm going with my guy Nico of Tennessee to have more than 19.5 rushing yards. I'm already calling it a big upset. Tennessee over Ohio State. Suck it, Ryan Day. Will Howard, I've seen a lot of Will Howard over the years, dating back to his days at K-State. He'll throw an interception. You better believe it. I got the more on that half interception. If I put $20 down and both these hit, that turns into $60 on Prize Picks. Play along with us. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Prize Picks, proud partner of Seattle Seahawks today. Glad to have him on board here on today's show. Let's go to the offensive line now of what Richard Sherman had to say about the O-line. And Sherman made the point that this offensive line is doing this team no favors right now, that the O-line is not giving this team a chance at all. Sherman saying the following: I've been telling you, behind this offensive line, who has struggled most of the season, it's tough for any quarterback to be successful. This offensive line gave up 7 sacks today. That's tough. Some of them were on Sam Howell holding the ball too long, but literally the pocket crumbled in front of him and around him. Now, you think about this. There's only so much Geno can do with this offensive line, right? With the limitations that are there, that is going to hinder the success of what a quarterback can do if he doesn't have time to throw the football. And yet, we've still seen Geno play at a relatively high level this season. The same cannot be said for Sam Howell of when he took over on Sunday night. And when I look ahead to the offseason, and believe me, we'll have plenty of time to talk about the offseason in the coming weeks. We're still enjoying what we have left of this season, whether it's a few more weeks or potential playoff run, whatever it may be. But when I look ahead to 2025, John Schneider cannot sit idly by and not fix this offensive line. I know that John Schneider doesn't value the guard position, and he said that publicly. He doesn't like to pay guards. He doesn't like to draft guards high. That's got to change. You have to evaluate what you're going to do with the center spot. We saw Olu get a little banged up, right? Jalen Sundell had to come in, and, of course, we know what happened with Connor Williams retiring midseason and everything like that. Because the results we saw this past week, folks, I mean, hide the women and children. I was talking to Smitty about this earlier today. I have never in my life seen a lower pass blocking grade for one player than what I saw from the Rook Lumea on Sunday. A 1.6. 1.6 pass block grade. Yikes. Big yikes. And that's just part of the story. Laken Tomlinson wasn't good. Sundell wasn't good. Abraham Lucas was solid. Charles Cross was solid. But man, oh man, what a mess that this team was dealing with here with this offensive line this past week. And you hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that they make some major investments this next offseason, because this is just not sustainable. You are not going to win a lot in this league if you do not win at the line of scrimmage first. And no one's more to blame for Seattle being in this situation with the lack thereof on the offensive line than John Schneider himself. Here we are, and he's just refused to invest, and it's the number one thing holding this Seahawks team back, and that's got to change going forward. Who is to blame for the O-line struggles this year? Is it bad coaching? Is it the players? Or is it the puppet master, John Schneider? I think it's John Schneider that's to blame. Who do you think is the one to blame for the O-line struggles this year? Weigh in and let us know. Last on Sherman's takeaways. One of the things that Richard Sherman pointed to was the atmosphere on Sunday night at Lumen Field. And we know that when the 12s are rocking, there's no better place in the National Football League. We've seen some incredible moments over the years from the Beast Quake to when they broke the record for loudest stadium in the NFL and all sorts of great moments. Sunday night was not a great moment with Packer fans all over the building, and that's not the first time that an opposing fan base has taken over the stadium this year. We saw it in the Bills game a few weeks ago. Small market teams doing this too. More from Sherman. Let's let you hear from him directly. This one hurts, but the most discouraging part was probably the "Go Pack, Go" chants that you're hearing in Lumen Field. That's something I don't ever remember hearing. I don't ever remember hearing the opposing team's chants in our home stadium. But that's a different story for a different day. Now, I'll say this. The landscape in Seattle has changed a lot in recent years. You had a lot of people move out of the city during the COVID-19 pandemic that said enough was enough. They didn't like the way the policies were put in place with the mask mandates and how the city was managed in that COVID era, and that drove a lot of people out. You don't have as many of the diehard Seahawks fans living in Seattle that can make it to games that you did years ago. And with that, along with what we've seen just with where the economy is at in Seattle and with where the prices are at in tickets, there's a number of factors involved that led us to this point. And it's going to take a lot if we're ever going to get back to the way things were before in Seattle. We're going to have to get those diehard fans back. The young guys and gals are going to have to be invested in this, much like their parents and their grandparents were. And maybe the younger folks aren't as passionate about this Seahawks team. Maybe we've grown to adapt to watching games on television and staying at home and watching Sunday Ticket and doing all that. Maybe Seahawks fans have spread out too much and are living across the country instead of coming home to Seattle. Those are all factors involved here that could be a difference. But to see Green Bay just take over, I mean, look at this goofy dude. I mean, wearing a chain and a hat and such. What's he even doing there? Lower level seats? That's probably a season ticket holder's seat that was sold to him. You season ticket holders, I know it's easy for me to say because it's not my money. But my goodness, like, we got to find a way to stop selling tickets to Green Bay fans. If you can't make it to the stadium, make sure another Seahawk fan gets to go. And maybe the organization needs to get involved with help from the ticket companies, like maybe Game Time or Ticketmaster or whatever it may be, maybe some zip code protections or whatever. But, I mean, it's gotten out of hand, and that's got to change if we want to get back to the way things used to be at Lumen Field. Has Lumen Field lost the magic? Have they, in all honesty? What do you guys think? Type HY for hell yes, HN for hell no. Weigh in, let me know in the comments section. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now to Seattle Seahawks Today, youtube.com/Seahawks TV. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. All right. So, there we go. Richard Sherman with some very intelligent, interesting thoughts on a number of things. Has Lumen lost the magic? Smitty, what do you think? It
ain't the same as it was before.
Not the same.
No. It is not the raucous atmosphere and it's kind of lost. You know, I don't know if I would say it's lost the magic, but it's certainly lost its reputation.
Yeah.
So, I think Seattle fans, like, unfortunately, myself, Tyler, can't go to these games. Every week we bring you coverage right here on the channel, but man, something's got to give for the folks in the Pacific Northwest to get out to these games. The team's on a playoff run right now. They're above 500. They're about to win the division potentially. Why is it the way it is? I don't get it.
I mean, you think about this past Sunday night. It was a 5 o'clock local time game. Everybody could still go to work just fine the next day. Sunday, you're at home, prime time, in an atmosphere where you're trying to make the playoffs. And what was that? I mean, like, there was just no reason that should have happened.
No reason it should happen. And to be fair, the small market teams, the Buffalo, the Green Bay that has taken over Lumen Field this year, they're passionate fans. Don't get me wrong. Some of the most passionate in the NFL, but you're the Seattle Seahawks. You're supposed to have one of the most intimidating home field advantages in all of football, and it's not that way anymore.
Yeah. Is the magic gone? HY for hell yes, HN for hell no.
Are we cooked?
Yeah. Connor said he sent in a super chat. I think that was during this segment. We'll get to Connor here in just a second. I see Taker as well also sent one during this segment. We'll catch up on those, then we'll do our game preview here. Taker says, Sherm says, come through. Yes. We do love Richard Sherman around here. I love that he's become such a media star and done a great job, and certainly enjoy the work he's doing there, Taker. Connor with a $10 super chat. Connor says, back to quarterback chat. To be honest, it's not Sam Howell's fault. He was put in with no reps or starts since the preseason. But if he did and he knew Ryan Grubb's scheme, what do you think we would see?
Well, he should know Ryan Grubb's scheme by now. He should know it.
He should know it. And you got to be ready when your name is called. And as Sherm mentioned, some of those sacks were Sam's own fault, where he walked into the sack. And as I mentioned earlier, Geno Smith, many years ago, when he had to come in for Russ, what did he do? He lit it up. Led a 98-yard drive and went 3-1, filling in for Russ a few years ago, and proved his worth and earned the starting job for the next year.
He was one drive away from going 4-0, I think, that Steeler game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, he was fantastic.
And that offensive line wasn't very good either.
Seattle hasn't had a good offensive line in 10 years. 10 years. And we were blinded by Russell Wilson's ability to escape the pocket and improvise and do things out of structure when the offensive line, the pocket breaks down, that, Sean Schneider was blind to improving it. And now we have a quarterback in Geno Smith who is not mobile, but I wouldn't say he's immobile. I wouldn't say he's Kirk Cousins level, but you have to be able to protect him. You have to be able to keep a clean pocket for at least some stretches of the game. You can't have 1.6 PFF grades coming from the interior.
Yeah, goodness. Connor, though, very good point. That's a shot. I owe you a shot. I'll drink up accordingly. And cheers to you.
Keep getting those questions in. #Seahawks to get on our mailbag portion of today's show. Got some good questions here so far, but still need a couple more. Got Charlie the photographer with a couple great questions, but to be fair to everyone, we want to get everybody's voice involved. If Charles is the only one hammering great questions, and as well as Justin and Chieferton, those three are going to dominate the mailbag today, and that's just going to have to be how it is. But we want some more voices. We want some more opinions, some more perspectives. #Seahawks in your comment.
Simple as that. #Seahawks to get your questions in, or Super Chat. We'll answer those coming up in our next segment after we do our game preview. Seahawks and Vikings. We'll break that down for you coming up in just a moment. Then we'll do our mailbag to follow after that. We continue live coverage here on Seahawks Today. Jones and Smitty here with you. Glad to have you with us. Week 16 in the National Football League. Let's talk about that. Is that Vikings record's not correct there, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not. I have to fix. Maybe.
Okay.
I have it right in the wrong spot.
Gotcha. Can you? I forgot to mention this. Can you go ahead and pull up playoff picture after we do the matchup graphic?
Sure.
Okay. I'll edit the script.
Yeah, sure. It's right there now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because when this goes out, the Thursday night game is an AFC game, so it won't change.
Matter,
yeah. All right. Without further ado, folks, let's preview Vikings, Seahawks, Thursday night football. We'll bring that to you as we continue right now here on Seahawks Today. It's a pivotal game this Sunday for your Seattle Seahawks as they take on the Minnesota Vikings, week number 16 in the National Football League. the run to the playoffs reaching its final stretch. Seattle comes in off the loss to Green Bay at 8-6. The Vikings with a win on Monday night. They're playing on a short week after beating the Chicago Bears. Travel to Seattle. The Vikings about 3-point favorites. The over-under set at 43.5. Coming up on today's show, we'll go over my keys to a Seattle victory. We'll also break down the injury report, and I'll give you my prediction as well coming up at the end of today's show. Let's begin with a look at the updated playoff picture heading into the weekend. The Lions hold that number 1 spot at 12-2. The Vikings with the same record. The Vikings battling with Detroit for home field advantage in the NFC and a division title in the NFC North. The Eagles hit 12-2. They're still in contention for that number 1 seed. The Bucs at 8-6 at number 3. The Rams at 8-6 at number 4. Seattle 8-6 as well, but they're on the outside right now. Seattle could finish as high as the number 3 seed potentially in the playoff picture if everything goes their way. And then you have Green Bay at 10-4. The Commanders at 9-5. Pretty much for Seattle, their path to the playoff is by winning the division. It would be very difficult at this point for them to make the playoffs as a wild card team at this point in time. If you're ready for a Seahawks win, spam S in the comment section. I need at least 300 S's as if we are loud and proud at Lumen Field. Look, people are talking a lot about Lumen Field, saying that, hey, it's not what it used to be and all that. Well, let's make our voices heard loud and clear. Spam S in the comment section, and we'll get going with today's show. Let's begin with the injury report. And this is as of our recording on Wednesday's live show where things stand. Brady Russell with a foot injury, questionable. Trey Brown with a hamstring injury, questionable as well. Olu with a knee injury, questionable. Kenneth Walker III with a calf injury, questionable. But I would think this is the week he returns. And Geno did participate in practice on Wednesday. Questionable with that knee. I would think Geno is going to be good to go. He seemed pretty optimistic in a call with Mike McDonald on Monday. Stephon Gilmore, the corner from the Vikings, with a hammy. He is questionable, as is Brian O'Neill, the offensive tackle spot, with a knee injury. He's questionable. And then one of my favorite stories in the NFL this year, Jalen Redmond, former Oklahoma Sooner. He dealt with a lot of adversity throughout his career as he dealt with blood clots when he was at OU. Had to step away from football for a bit, went undrafted, went to the UFL. He's had a breakout season. He is questionable with a concussion, so the Vikings might be without one of their best defensive players there. What's it going to take to defeat the Minnesota Vikings this week? Let's go over our keys to victory now. Let's start with JSN, Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He is getting very, very close to 1,000 yards receiving. I want a big game from JSN, and I want him to reach that milestone for the first time in his career, and I think he's got a great opportunity to do it this week. He's been the hot hand. He has gone 7 straight games, folks, with at least 4 catches for a nice total of 69 receiving yards. He has been on fire. Even if, for whatever reason, Geno can't play, or if it's Sam Howell, whoever it is, they need to get the ball to JSN. Just 6 yards away from reaching that 1,000 mark, leading this team in yards, in receptions. He's got 5 touchdowns. He's played at a Pro Bowl caliber. JSN going to be very important for this Seahawks team to come through to get the job done. The offense basically runs through JSN now. He's going to need to have a big day. Who do you got? You going with the Hawks? Or are you going with the Vikings? Type C for Seattle. Type men for Minnesota. Get your predictions in and let us know who you think gets the job done. We'll be live this Sunday here on Seahawks Today for Seahawks and Vikings. Our coverage will begin just after 12 noon Pacific time, 3 Eastern, with our hour-long pregame show. Big Tex is going to join me, and you better be here as well as we get you ready for kickoff. We'll be live throughout the game, reacting to it in real time, have a few drinks on hand. You won't want to miss out. We'll do some Super Chat giveaways, get a little early start to the Christmas holiday right here on Seahawks Today. Season greetings to you. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and we'll see you right here on Sunday afternoon. Number 2, get after Sam Darnold. Much has been made about Seattle's offensive line this year. And what makes this matchup, I think, pretty interesting, not just the fact that both these teams are playing for their playoff picture and all, but they have a very similar problem, and that is awful offensive line play. Sam Darnold has been sacked 42 times this season. That's the 4th most of any quarterback in the NFL. Geno's 3rd, by the way, for those wondering at home. And Sam Darnold is coming off a not-so-great performance against the Chicago Bears this past week. Granted, the Vikings won, and they won in convincing fashion, but it wasn't necessarily the day that Darnold was hoping for by any stretch. If I'm Seattle, I'm doing what I can to just make life hell for Sam Darnold, force him into some sacks, into some pressure, some interceptions, really just rattle his cage, as Dale Earnhardt would say back in the day. And we know that they have the pass rushers to do it, but can Seattle put it together? Because it's been very inconsistent. Leonard Williams, just a few weeks ago, looked like one of the best defensive players on the planet. Now he's kind of tapered off a little bit here. Derek Hall was leading in this team in sacks for a long time. He looked great. Now he's kind of slowed down. Boye, it's been a disappointing 3rd season after leading this team in sacks a year ago. Draymond Jones, we can never rely on. Jaron Reed's not bad. But you got plenty of guys that can do it. But they've shown inconsistencies with getting the job done. I want to see these guys step up on that front. Number 3, we mentioned earlier, it sounds like K9 will be back this week. But that doesn't mean that Seattle should forget that Zach Charbonnet is still on this roster too. In fact, I'll say this. I don't think that Charbonnet should necessarily start over Kenneth Walker, but I do think that his role should still be a big one for this Seahawks team. He's averaging more yards per carry, about just over a half yard more, compared to his teammate Kenneth Walker III. And they both have been playing behind the same bad offensive line, and Charbonnet has got better results so far this season. He's got more touchdowns, more yards per carry, also hasn't fumbled it as well. In a perfect world, you get them both involved, and they both play at a high level. But just because K9 is likely to come back doesn't mean that that should, by any stretch, make Zach Charbonnet MIA. And we know that he can be effective in the receiving game as well. Who gets more carries? Who should get more carries? K9 or Zach Charbonnet? Type K9 for Kenneth Walker. Type Zach for Zach Charbonnet. Weigh in, let us know in the comments section. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time is the place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Whether you're looking for tickets to sport events, concerts, theater productions, comedy shows, and more, Game Time has got you covered. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals and great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have their super deals. If you see a super deal, you don't want to pass up on it. They have their seat views and get the visual, see what that seat is like. You can also customize your seat as well. Choose the event you want to go to, Seahawks game, Kraken game, anything in Seattle. Maybe you want to head down to Portland and go see the Blazers in action. You can do that with Game Time too. And then you choose your seat, see if you like that seat or not. Then you're checking out with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Game Time, proud partner of Seattle Seahawks today. All right. Number 4 on our keys to victory. Without a shadow of a doubt, the best player on the field for any team this Sunday will be Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. He is arguably the best receiver in football. He is well on his way to being a Hall of Famer. He is that one-of-one type guy. There's good receivers, there's great receivers, and then there's Justin Jefferson. He's just on another level. And so far this season, new quarterback and all, right? Bad offensive line. Justin Jefferson's still doing his thing. He hasn't missed a beat at all this season. 2nd in receiving yards, 10th in catches, 6th in targets, 5th in receiving touchdowns. Already has over 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 82 catches, 15.2 yards per reception. And I'll say this. I've heard a lot of you about Rick Woolen as of late. And we've seen Rick Woolen. It's been a lot of peaks and valleys this year, right? We've seen Rick look really good, and then weeks like last week where he looks really bad. And this is, without question, his toughest assignment yet. How will he shut down Justin Jefferson? Jefferson's going to get his. It's really how will you limit him? With the double teams, are you going to get Witherspoon or Julian Love involved? Is Kobe Bryant going to be out there? What can you do to minimize the impact of Justin Jefferson? It's going to be crucial. Last but not least, protecting the quarterback. And this is more so about the offensive line as a whole. The offensive line's just got to do a better job. I mean, last week was just atrocious. It didn't matter if it was Sam Howell or Geno Smith. I mean, it was just painful. 7 sacks given up last week. LeMayo was just horrendous. A 1.6 pass block grade. Laken Tomlinson was horrible. Sundell was terrible. Olu and his limited snaps wasn't very good as well. Just horrendous. And Mike McDonald, he wants this team to be able to run the football, not have to pass so much and protect the quarterback a bit. But the offensive line's got to get going to give them the chance to run the football. McDonald said this week. We wanted to run it more in the Packers game for sure. We didn't get as many runs as we thought, particularly because of circumstance. But there were some opportunities in the game that we both, he and Grubb, felt like runs could have been better utilized. We're going to learn from those, but we're on the same page on how we're calling games and all that. But absolutely, we need to get our run game going. So if the run game is going to get going, if Geno's going to do his thing, the offensive line's got to get to work. They got to protect the quarterback. They got to get a push. They got to do all those things to open up everything else. We cannot let what happened last week happen again, for goodness sakes. Before I get to my game prediction, let's hear from you now. Who will be Seattle's MVP against the Minnesota Vikings? If you had one player to name, offense or defense, either one, who would it be? Weigh in, let us know in the comments section. To recap our keys to a Seattle victory, let's get Chase into 1,000 yards. Let's get him a big day. Get after Sam Darnold and that awful Vikings offensive line. Lean on Charbonnet a bit. Whether K9's there or not, don't forget that Charbonnet's there. Take away Justin Jefferson, at least limit his impact anyway to an extent, and then protect the quarterback. Offensive line's going to do their part. If Seattle does their part, if they can do these things, I feel pretty good they can bounce back this week. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I think Seattle can find a way. It's a game they badly need. You got to win 2 of the next 3. One of them's got to be against the Rams. But then you go on the road for a short week against Chicago here. I think they can do something this week. It might not be pretty, but they can find a way to get it done. Give me the Hawks 23-20. If you're ready for a Seahawks win, spam W in the comments section. Let's hear from all the 12s out there. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll see you on Sunday right here for Seahawks and Vikings here on Seahawks Today. All right. Who do you got? Hawks or Vikings? Smitty rejoins me now. Smitty, going to be a very interesting game here.
I got the Hawks. Like I said before, I think it's a little bit of a reverse trap. Like I said with Seattle, they're kind of walking into a short week. Next week against the Bears. This week, Minnesota's walking into that same situation, and you know what? They're riding about as high as they can right now. I know, and while they're getting wins, Sam Darnold and the offensive line is not looking like an A+ category of their team. So I think Seattle's got a good chance here to take advantage of that slip.
Calvin Banks is the Seahawk.
The tackle?
Yeah.
Well, we don't need a tackle.
You don't?
No.
You need a guard?
We need a guard.
There's some are saying he's going to play guard.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
He has short arms.
Oh, short arm, then he's playing guard.
Okay. We'll take whatever we can get out, Kevin Banks.
You guys about to drop your sacks?
We are.
We're about to drop sack, yes.
We're about to drop your sack.
Whoa! What did he say?
That means mailbag time's coming.
Mailbag time's coming.
Get your questions in.
Please.
Hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get your mailbag questions on today's show. Ian says, is that Smitty? Yes, Smitty's here with us. Ian, are you just now getting there? Because Smitty's been here the entire show. Ian. But nonetheless, yes. Hoodie I got Seattle. Smitty's got Seattle. Mike says 17-10 Hawks. Ian says Seattle. Get your predictions in. Let us know. We also need some questions for the mailbag. I'm going to give you guys about one more minute. And Michael, what are you talking about? What are you talking about there? Ian says, yeah, I just got off work. Okay. Welcome, Ian. Welcome. Glad to have you here, man. Use hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get on the mailbag portion of the show. And Mike said he got his question in. Let's hear from Ian, Michael, Dark Diamond. I want to get some more people in this mailbag segment as we get started in about a minute or so. And then we'll wrap up from there, our final segment. And then I get to call the weekend. Off tomorrow and Friday, and then I'm in the office Saturday and Sunday, and go from there. I'm off to folks. I'll say this. I will give $100 to anybody out there that can guess where I'm flying tomorrow. You'll never guess, and I'll even up it a bit. I'll give another $100. Smitty already knows where. I've already told Smitty, so he doesn't count towards this.
Oh.
I'll give another $100 if you could name the airline too, of where I'm going tomorrow. But I have a quick trip. My last flights of 2024 will be over the next couple days.
There you go.
So it's been a fun year. Dark Diamond, no, I'm not going to Miami. I was there a couple weeks ago. Mike, not going to New York either. It is.
Trust me, it's not something you would. It's not a place you would think of. Like it's about as specific as what Caleb's saying in Guatemala, even though it's not Guatemala.
It is in the U.S. Mike, it is not Southwest Airlines. I'll be honest. I did not even know this airline existed before this travel was booked for me. Spirit Airlines to Atlanta says Bodiskin. Thank God I'm not flying Spirit Airlines.
No. I'm
I've had way too many Spirit Airlines experiences.
I'm a Spirit truther.
Continental says Mike. Alaskan. Yeah, I don't think you guys are getting it. I'll give you guys a couple more chances just in case, but you'll never figure it out. Steven says, I promise Hal is trash. Season is over with him. Well, sounds like Geno's coming back, so season's still alive. Still alive. Staying alive. Staying alive. Dan the Man Miller writes in, if Seattle has a top 5 O-line, how much better do you think Geno would be? I think he would be scary good.
How about we answer this in the first question of the mailbag?
I think that's a great idea.
Let's do it.
I think you're going to like my answer, Dan. I'll save that here for a few moments from now. Dan, I will take a shot for you, though. Blue Jet. No, it's not Blue Jet. Do you guys give up? Steve says Topeka, Kansas.
Pretty close.
You know, you're on the right kind of idea of remote places. Do you guys give up? Do you want me to just tell you at this point? Trell got the state. Okay, we're on to something now. He got the state.
There you go, Trell.
Do you give up yet, chat? Trell is right with New Mexico. Caleb in New Mexico. But where in New Mexico?
I don't think anybody even knows that place exists.
Yes, I'll be honest. I did not know this place existed. But I had basically a friend asked me if I would come out, and I said I would. So here we are. So, all right. I didn't see any guesses. I will tell you. I am off to Clovis, New Mexico in the morning by way of Denver Air Connect. Let's see if I come back to Dallas in one piece. I will report back later. If you all do not see me after tomorrow, you know why. I did not survive Denver Air Connect to Clovis, New Mexico. All right, without further ado, let's get to the mailbag, and then we'll wrap up and go from there.
Let's do it.
Our final segment. Here we go, folks. All right. Here we go. Mailbag time. Well, let's get after it. Glad to have you with us here on Seahawks Today by Chad Sports. Tyler Schultz here with you. Thanks for joining us. We have some promising news to get to on Geno Smith and among others here on today's show as we answer your questions on all things Seahawks as the run to the playoffs is on. Just 3 weeks remaining in the regular season. We will break everything down that you need to know coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do, folks, I want to make sure not only you are subscribed to Seahawks Today, but you also have your notifications turned on. You'll be the first to know when we have new content on the channel. And it's real simple. You just subscribe and then hit that noti bell, and you'll be alerted when we have our news and rumors segments, our breaking news, our Q&A mailbags, and you can join us for our next mailbag segment, our live shows, watch parties, all that. Subscribe now for free. Join the Noti Gang. Spam Noti Gang in the comments section, and we'll get started with today's show. The great Dan the Man Miller with a $10 super chat to open up the mailbag this week writes, if Seattle has a top 5 O-line, how much better do you think Geno would be? I think he would be scary good. I think Geno would be very good, and it would be a huge difference because you have the skill position players already there at the receiver spot and at the running back positions. So, yes, I think Geno would be very good. I think that with a top 5 O-line, Geno could look like a top 10 quarterback, I think, if you gave him a top 5 O-line. But with that said, the thing for me that would be interesting is not just Geno with a top 5 O-line, but the run game. If this run game had a top 5 O-line, I mean, it would be just amazing what you could do with the run and pass game, and this offense could be averaging 30-plus points a game if they just had the offensive line to get the job done. So that, to me, Dan, it wouldn't be just about Geno, but it would be about the run game as well. It'd make all the difference in the world. White Lightning writes in, how hard would it be to beat the Vikings in reality? Well, we talked about this week on the program, and the thing that intrigues me about this matchup is that the Vikings have the same exact problem Seattle does. They have a piss-poor offensive line. Sam Darnold has been sacked a whole lot this year, almost as much as Geno Smith has. And yet they've won a lot more football games. Their offense has looked a lot better than Seattle's has. And they got a plethora of pass rushers there, from Will Anderson to Neil Hunter and among others here. That's a very good football team. Kevin O'Connell's done a terrific job. He gets my vote for Coach of the Year. With that said, this Seahawks team, they've shown that they can show up on any given week, that they can compete with the best of the best, and then other times they can just, look like a deer in headlights. I don't know what version we're going to get. It will be hard, but it's not possible. They can get the job done. Toons writes in, is Woolen the next Trey Flowers? I hope that is not the case. You look at Woolen's rookie season, and things were going pretty good, right? Pretty optimistic. Tied for the league lead in interceptions with 6. Then last year, had that little injury and struggled to stay healthy and was struggling with tackling and all that. And then this year, it's been a lot of peaks and valleys. And I think there's still time for him to turn things around, that he can get things headed in the right direction. But you better believe, with the other concerns we've had at the corner spot for this Seattle team, with Trey Brown not playing so hot, Josh Jobe isn't very good, you moved on from Mike Jackson, they're going to be drafting corner pretty high in next year's draft. I can guarantee you that much. Cotter with a $10 super chat writes in, back to quarterback chat. To be honest, it's not Sam Howell's fault. He was put in with no reps or starts since the preseason, but if he did and he knew Ryan Grubb's scheme, what do you think we would see? Well, first off, he's been here since, March? He should know Ryan Grubb's scheme. I mean, it's just not excusable for him not to know the system that's in place. So I don't want to hear that for an excuse. All right. Now, the no reps and no starts since the preseason. If you are a backup quarterback, your number one job is to what? Stay ready. Be ready for that moment when your day and time comes to answer the call. That if, God forbid, something happens to the starting quarterback, that you're ready when your time comes. I mean, think about just a couple weeks ago, the SEC championship game. We saw Georgia and Texas squaring off. And when Carson Beck went down, you know what happened with that Georgia team? Gunnar Stockton comes in, and he played better even than Carson Beck did. And everyone rallied around him. I didn't see that with this Seahawks team. I didn't see Sam Howell outplay Geno Smith. I didn't see the team rally around Sam Howell and everyone else elevate their game. I think that's a realistic expectation that when you go to the backup quarterback, you should be like what Georgia was a couple weeks ago, where that quarterback is going to put their best foot forward and the team is all going to step up and say, we're going to do our jobs better and we're going to play the best we can. And that didn't happen. It wasn't all Sam's fault. For sure, the offensive line didn't do him any favors. But I think realistically, Sam was not ready for that moment, and it doesn't make me feel confident in him at all. All right, Crabtree Sorry writes in, is Geno Smith going to be okay? So at the time of this recording, on Wednesday, when we do our live shows and these mailbags, everything looks pretty promising. That Geno looks to be on track to play Sunday, full participant practice on Wednesday, some huge steps in the right direction. And he was pretty optimistic in his conversations with Mike McDonald earlier in the week. And the thing that I think is going to be interesting to watch for Geno is the old thing about learning to play with pain and playing through this. You think about like Aaron Rodgers in New York this year. Aaron's probably got about 3 different injuries, and he's just continued to play through it, right? For better or for worse. Obviously, the Jets season isn't going very well, and Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked that great. But with that said, it's not like everything's healed all of a sudden for Geno Smith. It's just, all right, how can I deal with this? How can I go through this circumstance? But if he's confident he can play through it, that he can deal with the pain, then that's very good reason to be optimistic about what he can do and not having to play Sam Howell. So it's a good sign going forward. Do you believe in Geno? Type B for believe, D for don't. Weigh in the comments section. Let us know if you believe in Geno Smith or not. Weigh in and let us know. All right, before we go any further in today's show, let's tell you about our sponsor. That is Z-Biotics. I'm a big fan of Z-Biotics, and you will be too, folks. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great day. That is until I found Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Pre-Alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered product. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. The first time I tried Z-Biotics was at a party. As instructed, I drink a bottle of pre-alcohol before any school. I was amazed at how good I felt the next day. From Thanksgiving feast to New Year's Eve celebrations, this holiday season is packed with events. But don't let the festivities leave you feeling less than merry. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic can help savor the night and seize the next day. So stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/chatsports. You can also scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code ChatSports at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use code ChatSports at checkout. 15% off. Thank you to Z-Biotics for sponsoring this episode and our good times. The Boz writing in, can Sam Howell get the job done? So the assignment for Seattle over the next few weeks is getting in the postseason. It's winning 2 out of the next 3, and one of those 3 has to be against the LA Rams. So could Sam Howell, if something were to happen, a setback for Geno, another injury, gets worse, whatever it may be, Short answer, no. I'm not going to think that Sam Howell is going to get the job done, that things are going to get any better. And I think my big takeaway from watching on Sunday night of what all unfolded for me was just the value of how good Geno actually is, how good he's really been when you saw the flip of the script, script flip entirely, going to Sam Howell, of just how different this offense looked, of how lethargic it was. And it wasn't looking that great with Geno in that first half, but how much worse it got with Sam Howell. And I just have no reason to have confidence that Sam Howell is capable when you look at what's ahead, too. I mean, those teams that Seattle plays 2 of the next 3 weeks are just as good as Green Bay is, potentially, when you're talking about Minnesota and the LA Rams, who are red hot. So, no, if Seattle is going to make the playoffs, it's got to be with Geno under center the next few weeks. Trell, the photographer, writing in, what's the likelihood John actually fixes the O-line or just continues to ignore it like it's not an issue? Oh, I don't feel great about that. I think John's finally going to have to invest in the guard spot. I know that he doesn't like to pick guards high, doesn't like to pay guards and all that. Eventually, you can't just keep kicking the can down the curb here. You need some help when it comes to those guard spots. I think tackle, they're going to be okay. Abe has done enough. He's looked solid since he's come back from healthy. Hopefully it's not a chronic issue. Charles Cross has had a nice season for the most part. You're going to need help at guard. You're going to need help at center. And I think you're going to have to make those investments early and potentially look at veterans in this draft as well. Jefferton with the last question this week. What is Geno's contract situation? Does John Schneider have to make a decision this offseason or no? 1 year left next year. And you don't have to make a decision necessarily, but what I would expect is that Seattle does make a decision. If they bring him back, then there's an extension likely to come with it. Otherwise, they move on from him and trade him or cut him or whatever it may be. But I would expect that if they are going to bring him back, there is an investment for another year or two. Personally, I'm against the idea of giving him an extension beyond 2 years, really. I would go with a year and then a year with an option potentially, so 2 years max, personally speaking. But I would be very surprised if it was anything beyond 3 years potentially as far as that goes. Do you trust Sam Howell? Weigh in. Let us know. Type Y for yes, in for no. Do you think he can get the job done? If his name is called upon, weigh in. Let us know. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now to Seattle Seahawks Today. Appreciate you joining us, folks. Make sure and join us coming up this weekend for Seahawks and Vikings coverage. Begins 12 noon on Sunday. We'll see you then. All right. There we go. We are just about done as we wrap up here on this Wednesday. And appreciate you guys being here with us on the show. Smitty, good time today. Any final thoughts before we go here?
No, I honestly, I believe in the Seattle team this week more than I have in a couple weeks. And I don't know what's rolling around my brain right now, but maybe it's just my gambling mind in me that thinks that the chips are going to fall the way of Seattle this week. Law of averages tells me that the Vikes are due for another loss. Seattle's a good enough team to get it done, and they're going on the road on a short week. So I really do think Seattle gets back on the track against Minnesota on Sunday.
So we mentioned the blackjack table and the roulette table earlier.
Yes.
So you're hitting on red 18 on Seattle.
That's right. 100%. Yes. I'd be rolling for Seattle, no doubt about it.
Chat, are you hitting red 18 on Seattle this weekend? Man, we need it. We need this one. I got to tell you, we win this, then I'm feeling really good about the next 2 weeks.
Might be feeling a little nicey.
A little nicey indeed. Folks, have a great rest of your week. We'll have more videos throughout the coming days. I'll be back here on Sunday. Big Tex is going to be here. Smitty, you got any Warriors watch parties coming in the next couple days?
Nah, not next couple days. Likely after the holidays when I'll be back on the
Okay.
back on the air. But I do appreciate. Maybe I'm being an asshole here and not remembering who out of the Seahawks chat came and visited me. But we had a couple of real ones from the 12s hop over and support me. So can't thank you guys enough for that. Much appreciated, and hopefully we'll be back on the air soon.
You're about to take a little Christmas vacation, right?
I am. I do have a little National Lampoon coming up myself. Got basically the whole week off. I know. I'm very lucky to have that. I'll still be
Back to
getting
New York?
Back to New York. Yep. Very excited. Haven't been home since July. So.
Is this supposed to snow? Are you going to get a white Christmas?
It's a good question. Let me check real quick. 5 seconds.
I have always wanted to go to New York around Christmas time.
Oh, it's the best. There isn't anything like it. I am lucky enough to have had some white Christmases before, and hopefully, as I look here, no, nothing on the brink. Just highs of 28 the entire week.
Okay.
So that'll be fun, and some lows in the teens and in the single digits.
My plan, folks. So I go to New Mexico tomorrow, back Saturday, and then of course I'll be spending the holidays with y'all as we have Seahawks watch party the day after Christmas against the Bears, and then I get my Christmas after that, going home to Oklahoma the 27th. So a little delayed Christmas because I get to spend it with you guys, but that's okay. I'm glad to be here with y'all, and if I can't be with my family, I'm glad to be with my Seahawks Today family.
Let's go.
Over the holiday season. So don't miss out. We'll have still plenty of coverage the next couple weeks right here. Lock us in. For Smitty, I'm Tyler Jones. Have a great night. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you on Sunday right here on Seahawks Today.